All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Jets Afterburners podcast. I am your host, Liam, and I'm being joined by a very special guest, Ryan from Jets Talk 24/7, the man that is always your pilot. Ryan, I'm going to let you be my pilot tonight. How you doing, my friend?
I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to talking a little ball, a little draft recap, some free agency stuff. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's going to be a very packed show, so I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in real quick. Thank you for all your support. We're doing like a pod every single night. It's another night, another great guest. Last night we had James Woody from Take Flight Talk, so go check that out if you guys haven't done so already. But with that being said, it's another day, more Jets to talk about because this is New York, the city that never sleeps, and the New York Jets really are the team that never sleeps. And then that was even demonstrated in free agency when at the very beginning, there was no moves made. At the very beginning, everyone's, going after Joe Douglas. What is he doing? He's sleeping. No. Joe Douglas doesn't sleep. The city that never sleeps, up all night. So is Joe Douglas making moves at nighttime. We're going to get right into free agency, starting off really at the beginning of the league new year, which is free agency. So the offensive line, Joe Douglas has been very public that it needed to be fixed. We got to secure this offensive line once and for all. When he was hired back in 2019, he said, I'm going to fix the offensive line. Now, he's tried. It hasn't always worked out, as we all clearly know. But you go out, you get the best offensive lineman on the market, Tyron Smith. You go out, you get John Simpson, you get Morgan Moses. And then we go to the draft. We get Olu Fashanu or Fashanu, however you pronounce it. There's two ways. Do you say Fashanu or Fashanu?
I say Fashanu. I don't know if that's right or not.
I don't know either. That's what I've been saying. But getting into free agency, starting off with the offensive line, what were your thoughts on the moves that they made? Just going out and getting a Tyron Smith when it seems like he was the best offensive lineman on the market at the point. Now, there was a little concern. I've heard a couple other podcasters saying the same thing, that there's, maybe some concern that other teams, or not other teams, but there really wasn't a bigger market for him. It was really just like the Jets, or maybe I go back to Dallas, or, there was the possibility that he goes play like with a Super Bowl contender. What are your thoughts on the offensive line moves made in free agency?
Yeah, I think the first move that really piqued my interest was the trade for Morgan Moses, because that was someone that I did not think was available. Baltimore had a really good run last year. I thought for sure they'd want to keep that line intact, and they've lost at least three of the five pieces on it. But the trade for Morgan Moses, it didn't cost us a whole lot.
Nope.
What's up, Italy?
Hello, friend.
Didn't cost us a whole lot. And I felt from a quality perspective, from both a health perspective and just the way he plays, I thought he was better than any of the offensive linemen that were available in free agency. Yeah. So right off the bat, in my mind, I'm thinking okay, we're probably going to go after Trent Brown, or we're going to go after Jonah Williams or something along those lines. I just assumed Tyron Smith would be going back to Dallas. And then we find out his deal is like peanuts. It's like $6 million. And then if he stays healthy, he gets paid, obviously well. And that's the perfect type of contract because he's going to give you all pro level tackle play. You're getting the best offensive lineman in free agency. You're getting one that no one thought was available via trade. And I think that set the Jets up well to at least hide what they were going to do in the draft to some degree. And the addition of John Simpson, I didn't know anything about him prior to signing with the Jets. Did a little bit of research, saw some really nasty plays on running downs and whatnot. And between him and Morgan Moses, it really feels like the Jets are shifting their ideology more towards the let's run it with Brees and kind of beat people into submission, as opposed to hey, we're going to have Aaron Rodgers throw it 40, 50 times a game. Right. And that's kind of nice because you want your best players with the ball in their hands. And if you can make Aaron Rodgers, a game manager, it got to be one of the all-time great game managers then.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too. It's not only just keeping Aaron Rodgers healthy. It's not just keeping Aaron Rodgers upright. It, like you said, it opens up the run game. And nobody knew what Brees was going to be coming off of that knee injury. The fact that he came back the way he did last year behind that terrible offensive line, I think he's poised to have a breakout season. And then I'm going to kind of mix free agency and draft, just kind of combine it into one big thing. Going into the draft a little bit, now, I don't know about you, but I mean, it's nothing against either one of the running backs because I knew that Joe Douglas was going to take a running back. He's done it every year since he's been the Jets general manager, starting with Michael P. Ryan, and he has Michael Carter, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple. Now, there's currently 4 offensive linemen on the board. I mean, I'm sorry, running backs. They drafted the 2 guys, and like I said, it's nothing personal against those 2 guys, but I really could have done without drafting 2 running backs. The one I would have understood, probably Davis. Now, with that being said, I really would have liked a veteran backup running back, something similar that we've seen with Dalvin Cook, but obviously much more production. Do you think that they're still in the market for a veteran running back, and not only that, do you think that like Izzy is kind of the odd man out?
Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely did not expect 2 running backs to go. Like you, I did expect one. Braylon Allen was my guy. That was like one that I wanted for a while.
Yep.
My brother turned me on to him like a bunch of months ago, and I was like, oh, I don't know if the Jets are going to draft him that high. And then as I started watching and seeing where he was falling in mock drafts, I was like, you know what? They might have a shot at this. And this is the style of running back that I think would at least give you some comfort in the event that Brees were to go down. Him and Izzy might be something that could be a committee backfield. And then obviously he's only 20 years old. He doesn't turn 21 until January 20th, which means he's going to be having his first legal drink of alcohol after we win the AFC Championship game.
That's right.
That's what's going to go down. So I really like it. I think it's super cool. But then the addition of Davis just, 2 selections later, I was like, what are we doing? I've heard they both really like pass blocking. Dom C, one of the guys over on Talking Jets, did an interview with Davis down at the Senior Bowl, and one of the quotes he had was, "My favorite thing to do is find a blitzing linebacker and put him on his ass, or decleat him." And I was like, all right. So the Jets clearly saw the offensive line. They clearly saw Dalvin Cook and Izzy and Michael Carter and how our pass blocking from the running back position was not up to snuff. Now you've got a situation, and to be honest, you kind of got like 2.5 running backs because Malachi Corley was a converted running back to wide receiver. So, I expect some jet sweeps and things along those lines with him. And so I guess like running back was definitely more in their forefront of their mind than I think a lot of fans had. Now we did carry 4 running backs into last year. We had Brees, we had Cook, we had Carter, and we had Izzy. So I do think these 4 are probably the ones that do stay on the roster. I think it does say something about Izzy. It didn't really stand out last year. Hopefully with another year of training camp, it's a little bit easier to work his way into the offense. We did have 400 rushes last year from what I've been seeing. And you got to think if the Jets aren't having 3-and-outs constantly, if they're playing with a lead, they're going to lean on that running game a lot more. So I would expect 450 plus runs this season. And ideally you're protecting leads and keeping the ball out of the other team's hands on their offensive side. So not a huge fan of the 2 running backs back to back. There were still other players on the board that I think would have made more sense at positions that I feel are a little bit weaker. But Braylon Allen, my top back that I wanted, for the value. And then, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over Davis.
They're saying the other thing with Davis too is that he might be used for special teams. Mm-hmm. I saw that being floated out there a lot too. And then Armin has a question. Do they use Izzy as a returner? Do you think that's going to happen this year?
I think it definitely could. I think Izzy's going to be in that conversation. I think Malachi Corley's going to be in that conversation. I do think Gibson will be in that conversation. And then honestly, depending on how this new kickoff works, like if the injury risk is similar to a standard play, I would fully endorse putting like Brees back there in like crunch time situations. If he's no more likely to get hurt on that type of play versus like any other handoff that you would give him, the more opportunities with the ball in his hands, the more like chances you have at going the distance. Like a home run threat is something that I think is just so critical. And I think we're going to see a lot more kick return touchdowns this year. Like every team's going to have multiple, I think, based on like the way teams are going to have to align. So not that I'm necessarily like wanting Brees back there on a consistent basis, because maybe you can get some good returns out of, Izzy and Gibson and Corley and whatnot. You won't even have to really worry about it. But if you're in the playoffs and you need a touchdown, like I'm throwing Brees back there.
Oh, absolutely. And like the thing with Gibson too is like he had that one big play, Buffalo week 1, that he's famous for. And that really is kind of what solidified him. But I get it. He was an undrafted free agent. So like you didn't really know what you were getting out of him. And he had quite a couple drops last year where it's like frustrating and just, a couple missed assignments. So I don't know if he's going to be the main returner. Like you said, like I'd mix it up. I would throw some Izzy in there. I would throw Brees back there, maybe Corley. Yeah, Dark Soldier. Yes, I guess I'm too cool to say hello. Hello, Dark. Good to see you. It's been a while. You know what it is? You're not a consistent somebody in the comments anymore. So I kind of sometimes I forget you're in there. Come around a little more often. But so do you see any like one specific veteran running back that they do go after, if any?
I don't think so. I think the players that I would have. Oh, I'm not even using my right mic right now. Geez, sorry about that.
Yeah, take your time.
Am I not? Mother trucker.
You sound fine either way. I don't know if it's
going through my MacBook mic right now.
Mm.
Probably should have tested this prior, so I apologize. How do I sound now? That probably sounds a little better.
Say something else. It's hard to hear you.
How you doing?
All right, there you go. There you go. That's it. That's it.
All right. Yeah, I don't know if I see them actually using a extra money on a free agent running back. I think they're going to go running back by committee with the young legs. I think they kind of learned their lesson a little bit from Dalvin Cook. I wouldn't have minded like a Zeke Elliott on a vet min contract, but I don't know if I want to spend any money. I'd rather put that money into either a free agent safety or maybe even a trade target at the deadline. We got a few extra picks in next year's draft that we might be able to wheel and deal a little bit. I think there is a possibility that Devontae Adams becomes available at the trade deadline since they did not get a quarterback in this draft. If they're not looking so hot, that division's gotten a lot better, obviously with the Chiefs in it. You got Herbert coming back, and I think the Broncos will be a better team, at least this year, than we kind of saw. So I don't know. I wouldn't go running back, I don't think, in free agency.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. And like, there was a part of me that if they didn't draft the two, then I would definitely want one. But like you said, I do think that they learned their lesson with Dalvin Cook. And another position that the Jets really solidified that we started off talking about, the offensive line. They go out, they get Fashanu or Fashanu, however you say it. We agree. But do you see them going after maybe like a David Bakhtiari or somebody? Like I personally would. I know that it might be a little bit of overkill. Like you don't know how many games you're getting out of Tyron Smith, and you have Elijah Vera Tucker coming back off of injury. Morgan Moses is coming off of an injury. So there's quite a few pieces that are coming off of injuries, and it seems like there's three things guaranteed: death, taxes, and Tyron Smith getting injured. It has been almost an entire decade since he's played a full season. So I think that it's really good that we're finally drafting a first-round pick that doesn't have to go right into the fire week one and play. We could finally have a first-round pick, sit back, develop, learn the game, and just coach him up. Where you're not going in completely unsure because I'm sure he's still a very unfinished product. Now maybe there is a chance he comes in week one and he just lights it up and looks great. But I don't want to have to bank on that, especially in a going all-in year. I'm sure that he's going to be playing at some point this season, but I personally would just continue to add depth. You don't want the depth to be Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, and those kind of guys. You want a big top offensive lineman from this big draft that we just had. I want him to be the second in command. But I do think that there is a world where between Tyron Smith and David Bakhtiari, we could probably manage 17, 18, dare I say 20 games this season. Do you think that they go after somebody like a David Bakhtiari? Do you think that they're all set? What is Ryan thinking?
So I really like Bakhtiari. I would definitely be open to it. Now, I think you probably struggle with a little bit of like, okay, will he accept a backup role? Because we got Tyron as our starter. I think it's probably more likely that he comes in, during training camp if Smith sustains a serious injury, more so than it is that he comes in just to be like a backup to play with his buddy. Like I think he's more likely to maybe end up with a team like the Chiefs playing on natural grass, another Super Bowl contender. Maybe they could use some offensive line help. Tyron Smith, for me, I'm not as concerned. Like I know he hasn't played a full season since 2015, but when you look at how like the types of injuries he's had, they're not season-ending injuries. He's able to come back for the playoffs. He's played in all 7 of the Cowboys playoff games since that 2015 season when he had his last full healthy amount of starts. So in that capacity, I'm fine with an Olu or a Carter Warren in like spot fill-in scenarios, a game or 2 here and there. I think it maybe you get an option for like a Donovan Smith, someone who's a Jet fan, not going to cost you a whole lot, might want to come back. I don't particularly love him because I want some more of the snaps to go towards our young guys, but I think you got to help out at least the interior part of your offensive line. I'm still a big, proponent of bringing back Connor McGovern. Get yourself your starting center back, someone that Aaron Rodgers wanted to play with last year as opposed to a rookie center. Not to mention he can play guard. So you have some positional flexibility from AVT, from McGovern, from Tippmann, and Olu saying he's willing to play other positions. So that's probably where I would land on it. I don't think Bakhtiari is going to come in if I had to guess.
All right, that's a fair assumption too. And yeah, I've heard the same thing about Donovan Smith, that he might be the better option. I've heard that floated out there plenty of times as well. Now, getting into another position that I think that is actually a little thin, the wide receiver position. You have Garrett Wilson, and then I mean, we have Malachi Corley. I love the pick. I absolutely do. For me, in the 3rd round, it was between Keon Coleman and Corley. Obviously, Keon Coleman, we're going to be seeing twice a year now, so that's unfortunate. But I don't think anybody's saying that Keon Coleman is a number 1, and I don't think anybody's saying that Corley is a number 1. So we have our number 1 with Garrett Wilson, but then you're kind of like one Garrett Wilson injury away from being a little bit thin at the position. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't want to see Allen Lazard out there. Although I do think that Aaron Rodgers is, if anybody can get the most out of Allen Lazard, it's been proven to be Aaron Rodgers. So with that being said, do you think that they go after somebody like an OBJ or Tyler Boyd or something? What are you thinking about that?
I don't really want to see either one of them. I like Boyd a lot. That's not to say I wouldn't do it. But I think they are going to lean a little bit on Lazard. Like if Mike Williams is not ready for the start of the season, realistically, you're going to target Garrett, you're going to target Brees, you're going to target Conklin. That's at least 3 and Corley. So those 4 ahead of Lazard anyway. So if you're saying he's going to be potentially your 5th option in terms of targets, I'm okay with that. His blocking's not too bad. Maybe he does better with Aaron Rodgers as opposed to Zach Wilson. And you just hope for upside because obviously you can't move on from him this year with the money that he's got. Maybe I think what's going to happen is Devontae Adams or maybe some other wide receiver becomes available at the trade deadline, and God forbid you lose one of them. Maybe you lean on Brees a little bit. You hope to get Garrett back, and then you make a move at that point. I do think it is a little thin. If Mike Williams were 100% healthy, I would feel much more confident in it. I think them being a little wishy-washy on him for the start of the season definitely puts a little more concern on it for me. That's more the reason why I wanted Odunze at number 10, or I would have even traded up for him. I thought that was the right move at the time. That's nothing against Olu or the people that wanted offensive line. It just, to me, I thought all in year, go get the weapon that'll help Aaron Rodgers now. But it's nice to see that Joe Douglas is operating in a mindset that is long-term, even though he's in the last year of his contract. I would have expected him to be a little bit more save my skin. And with Aaron Rodgers saying that, the tackle wasn't necessarily the biggest need given the positions we added in free agency, makes me feel like this is Joe Douglas's team. And it's not just Aaron Rodgers is the de facto GM. It's the whole reason, Lazard is here and Hackett's here and Malik Taylor and Billy Turner and Cobb and Cook and all these different guys. So I think there's a little bit of confidence in what Joe Douglas has done. And hopefully we see, a little bit out of Brownlee and Gibson. Maybe they take a little bit more of a step forward. I don't think we're going to add a receiver, though. I think we're done in that room for right now.
All right, yeah, that's fair enough. And that's actually a good point that maybe we do look towards the trade deadline. That is actually a pretty good point because we don't, it's hard to say because like you said, we don't know how far along Mike Williams is. We don't know. Right now it's looking like he's not going to be ready, at least for the start of training camp. And if he's not 100%, then there's really no reason to throw him out there week 1 if he's not 100%. So, Yeah, like you said, I think the trade deadline would be the best option. I'm hoping to God it's Devontae Adams. I really am. I really am, man. Imagine a wide receiver room: Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Devontae Adams. That's easily the best wide receiver room in the NFL, hands
It
down.
would be silly. It would be absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it'd be like Madden,
Mhm.
a GM mode of Madden. That'd be absolutely crazy. So sticking with the offense here, the other position I want to go over is the tight end group,
Mhm.
where the tight end position, everybody was fooled. Everybody thought it was going to be Brock Bowers. I don't know if you were no offense, a Bowers boy or not. That seems to be the term that everyone's throwing around. The way that I looked at it was, I liked him. I liked the tape that I saw from him. I didn't see a whole lot. I'm not a huge college football fan. I don't pretend to be either.
Mhm.
I'm not going to tell you exactly how many yards and this and that he had week 7, but I do like what I saw from him. And obviously he went to the Raiders, which is a bit of a concern considering, like you said, that they don't really have a quarterback. So that could be, hey, even a bigger reason to bring Devontae Adams aboard, where he has his favorite quarterback.
Mhm.
But with the tight end group, I didn't think that Bowers was ever really necessary. I thought it was more of a luxury than a need. I like Tyler Conklin. I really do. His first year with the Jets was a little bit rough. Zach Wilson's rookie year, where some people were calling him stone hands, and he didn't really
Mhm.
have the big production, but he still had decent numbers. It was hard to argue, like he really is the best tight end that we had. And then we go ahead, we get Jeremy Ruckert. And I think that Jeremy Ruckert is poised to have a breakout season this year. Just, it seems like every year he gets a little bit better too. And like, yes, he's been banged up, which has definitely hurt his production in the past. But if you look at the numbers that Tyler Conklin had with quarterbacks like Mike White, Zach Wilson, Chris Streveler, Joe Flacco, Simeon, Boyle, the list goes on and on and on and on in these last couple of years. And he still managed to put up pretty decent, solid tight end numbers. Like, that's an average tight end on an average team. So I really think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to elevate everybody's game around him. How do you feel about our tight end group as it stands right now? And then Aaron Rodgers even went on the record and kind of praised Zach Kuntz. So I think that he has a shot at making the team this year, not just being a practice squad candidate. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely was team weapon at the top of the draft, and I sort of accepted the fate that I thought it was going to be Bowers. I liked him. I definitely thought it was a little bit of a luxury because, like you, I do really like our tight end room. Based on the perceived board from last year's draft, they had Michael Mayer right behind Will McDonald. They tried to go up and get a Jahmyr Gibbs. So like that to me said, we're looking at tight end because it was the same exact tight end room minus CJ Uzama this year. And we're looking for a home run threat. And to me, with Bowers, he's that threat to take at the distance anytime he touches the ball. It's, maybe you move Ruckert into a fullback role. That was sort of the way I kind of justified it in my head. And then you have the, the O line might not be fully, fixed or, there might be a little patchy spots or whatever. Well, all his catches or a majority of his catches or half his catches or whatever it was for Brock Bowers were all around the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. And if you don't have an offensive line that's doing really well, getting the ball out fast is something that could really help you. And you saw that with Miami. They did not have a good offensive line. They got the ball out of Tua's hands very fast. And that stopped the sacks. You can't sack the quarterback if the ball's out of his hand. So I thought there were ways around it for sure. I'm happy with the offensive line. I thought Bowers would have been the win now option if Douglas felt like his seat wasn't safe. But I think he went the direction of, as long as Aaron Rodgers is upright, my seat is safe. And I do agree with him on that. So as far as the tight end room goes, I like Conklin a lot. First year was a little rough, especially the game against Minnesota. He had a bunch of drops that I wasn't super thrilled with. But last year, pretty decent numbers. A lot of those came in garbage time, which I do think is maybe a little worrisome. But I think overall he's a top half of the league tight end. I think Ruckert has a bunch of talent. I'd love to see more from him. And if you were to have selected a Bowers, you are bumping Ruckert further down that list. Yeboah has some special teams capabilities. Kuntz is an interesting one. I'm curious to see what he does in training camp and how Rodgers really feels about him. Because sometimes he just talks guys up just to talk them up and give them some confidence and whatnot. And if Kuntz can kind of harness that perfect 10 RAS score that he had last year, freak athlete and whatnot, then maybe we figure something out in training camp and he winds up seeing a little bit more playing time. It would be awesome to hit on such a late round pick. But yeah, tight end, I'm happy with. I like Conklin. I like Ruckert. At this point, I would very much like to extend Conklin or restructure him to align him with the 2-year window the Jets have with Rodgers, assuming he's only going to be here for the next 2 years. So that would be my my preference at the tight end room.
Yeah, no, that you said it perfectly there, and I agree. I really hope that like somebody like Kuntz, like you said, hitting on such a late round pick, that'd be awesome for us. So I think that's going to really sum up the offense. Moving over to the defense, this is where I have actually some concerns. Where I don't know about you, but in my opinion, it feels like especially the defensive line, maybe got worse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they're bad, but they definitely took a step back. I mean, losing JFM for peanuts, I get it. The salary dump, I get it, but that really pissed me off to like no end. It just seemed like there's nothing else we can do, and I get it. He had a lot of penalties last year. Like I wasn't a huge JFM guy, especially last year with all the penalties and the holding, and just he had a down year. I think it's safe to say. But then you lose Woods, you lose Jefferson, and suddenly Bryce Huff. Although, yes, we did replace him with Reddick, but it does seem like they are taking a step back. Now, I don't think that they're going to be a bad defensive line. I think they're going to be far from it. But from just what we have seen the last couple of years, I do think that this might be the worst version of the defensive line in the last couple of years, and especially not using one of those draft assets to replenish JFM, Al Woods, Jefferson, somebody like that. So what are your thoughts on the defensive line right now?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of projection, I think, with the defensive line. Like, I do think the swap of Reddick and Huff is a net positive for us. Like, obviously, we were hoping Huff would turn into what Reddick currently is. What we got him for, his contract winds up being cheaper than Huff, on an average annual salary. So I do like that side of things. I think Kinlaw was a sneaky addition to this defensive line. Definitely paid him more than I thought I would have felt comfortable with, but he was fully healthy last year. I think if he's fully healthy this year in a contract season, playing next to Quinnen Williams, he's going to have a really big year. I agree the John Franklin Myers loss was a loss. They signed 2 years, $15 million, and according to him, the Jets were not even close to that number. I have a little tinfoil hat theory, my own. I think the Broncos would only take Zach Wilson if we did a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We'll send you JFM a little bit later. That way we save face. The Jet fans, the Jets get to save face from moving Zach Wilson as opposed to just cutting him. And then the Broncos get JFM for peanuts. So their fan base is like, oh, we fleeced the Jets, which they did. And we feel like, not that we fleeced the Broncos for, a late round pick for Zach, but I think the salary dump from Zach is also kind of good. So if the salary dump from Zach, $2.75 million, turns into a Connor McGovern on the interior part of your offensive line, and the money that's saved from JFM either turns into, Simpson at safety or maybe a mid-season trade for Devontae Adams, we're going to feel a lot better about taking a little bit of a step back on the defensive side to take a bigger leap forward on the offensive side.
Yeah, well said, well said. And I also think that, like you said, Kinlaw is maybe destined to have a breakout season. And another person I want to mention on that defensive line is Solon Thomas, where I think he is very underrated, especially for this Jets defensive line, where, yes, as a former first-round pick, I guess he is considered a bust. But for the New York Jets, what he is right now, like the purpose that he serves, you can't go wrong. And then I believe it was Greenby, and it might have even been on the panel with you guys, where he was saying that the difference between Michael Clemens and JFM really isn't that much. I don't know if you heard him talk about that or if you want to go deeper into that.
Yeah, I like Clemens. I'm a little sick of like the tough guy attitude, I think.
Yeah.
The step back last year, I think, was a little bit more from the weight gain that he put on to try and kick inside a little bit more. I'd like to see him drop a little bit more weight, be a little bit faster, and kind of, go after guys on the field as opposed to like some of the off the field stuff. I mean, him walking into training camp with the bat was like, all right, let's go. We're ready to do something. And then he just didn't show up like the entirety of the year. So I don't know. I definitely like JFM more than Clemens on a production standpoint, but for a value dollar per, helpful, play or whatever.
Yeah.
He's I think the loss of JFM with the more playing time of potentially a Michael Clemens combined with whatever other player you add with the salary from JFM, I think I feel all right with.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I think we've touched enough on the defensive line. Getting into the secondary a little bit, um, I don't know if you saw it, CJ Mosley just took like another pay cut, and that really speaks to the character that he is. That's the definition of a team leader right there. And he is maybe getting a little bit older, so this might be the last year that we see CJ Mosley. I hope not. I really enjoy CJ out there. He's still a good player even in his older age. But do you see a situation where they do maybe eventually sign like another linebacker? I know that they have Sherwood, but Quincy Williams, Pro Bowl linebacker caliber. But do you maybe see them adding a piece of that at the trade deadline, or maybe a free agent that we're not even thinking about?
I think maybe you see something on like cut down day or something like that from another team if they like someone. But more likely than not, the Jets have really started to align contracts for this 2-year window. You got Zerline, Morstead, John Simpson. Aaron Rodgers' contract I think is going to ultimately align like that. I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal right now. With Mosley, you're locked in for this season at a lower rate, and then you kind of have the team option for next year. So I think as long as Rodgers is coming back, he'll come back too. And just the ability to be not just self-aware into like, hey, I understand maybe I'm not the level of player I was. I do want to win a ring. This is definitely his best shot to get that ring and to take less money when he didn't really have to. The Jets were going to be on the hook for some portion of that money. Aaron Rodgers took less money on the offensive side. So you got your offensive leader, your defensive leader kind of leading the way for how negotiations go with some other players too. It's like, hey, you want to come in here, Tyron Smith, $6 million. And with incentives, we'll pay you like a top player if you perform to that. But like, you got to do us a solid by coming in here and taking a reasonable deal. So I think they want to see a little bit more out of Surratt. I think they want to see a little bit more out of Zaire Barnes, who they took last year. And I feel like they have a sense that they can develop guys a little bit more. If they have to pull the ripcord on Mosley, I think it's drafting someone next year. I think they're probably set at linebacker for this season.
Yeah, and then the other positions that we wanted to touch on too, you're saying that that they might add a safety, somebody like a Justin Simmons. That'd be the guy that I'd probably go after. Do you think that's actually, is that realistic in your opinion, or?
I think it's possible. It depends how, historically for this regime, they have not valued safety highly. They traded away Jamal Adams. They drafted Ashton Davis, with a 3rd round pick. They paid Whitehead a little bit. They had the franchise tag for Marcus May, but they let him leave. They didn't invest a ton of premium assets or capital into the safety position. So I think while it's a good position to upgrade, I don't know how much they feel it's a need. To me, in the secondary, my biggest issue with the draft was trading around so much with that 4th round, like the 4th round picks. I would have liked to have taken TJ Tampa with one of those 4th round picks, the 6'2" cornerback out of Iowa. He was someone that Mel Kiper had going the end of his 1st round mock draft. And then he had I've seen grades of him in the, mid-2nd round. With Eccles and Reed and Michael Carter II going into the final years of their contract, you had a really good opportunity to potentially add someone to go opposite sauce for the next 4 years. And for them to not do that, I was a little more irritated with it. I mean, I guess this isn't an all-in season this year, so if you can utilize a pick that, I can't even say that because they wound up trading picks away and getting, later round picks and a pick next year. So I don't know. Safety, I'm not super comfortable. I think that's the weakest position on our team right now. And I would like to see them do something. Simpson, to me, would be a worthwhile addition.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then we also don't know what Chuck Clark's going to be. I mean, he's been somebody that's really been like an Iron Man for the Baltimore Ravens. And then, of course, he comes to the New York Jets and doesn't see the field for the entire season. So him coming off of an injury is a little bit of a concern for me. And, especially with somebody that's still young. I mean, like Tony Adams, I think he was more than serviceable last year. And I do think that Chuck Clark coming off of an injury is still an upgrade over Jordan Whitehead, where he really had that breakout game week 1, and then you really didn't see him for the next couple of weeks. He had flashes here and there, but talking about the cornerback position, saying just to piggyback off of what you said, somebody that's not going to be next to Sauce. Um, I'm seeing a lot of people saying extend DJ Reed. I don't know if it's just going to be feasible to pay DJ Reed along with Sauce, in the next couple of years with Michael Carter. So DJ Reed might actually be somebody that can't pay them all. It might be like one of those kind of guys. And then we have Stiggers that we also drafted from the CFL who has experience, not college experience, not NFL experience, but somebody from the Canadian Football League experience where the rules are a little bit different. But do you see him potentially becoming an impact player that maybe could even find his way into a starting role? Maybe not this year. It might take him a year to get used to and just acclimated with the NFL offense and defense and just the whole NFL experience. And I don't think any of us really want to see him play this year, considering all the depth that we have with, like I said, Sauce, DJ Reed, Michael Carter, all the cornerback positions. Plus, we have Eccles, a couple other guys. Do you think that that's somebody that has a chance at starting in the NFL one day?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Joe Douglas took Bryce Hall in the later rounds in his first draft and wound up starting for us. And we only just lost him this offseason. So I think it's entirely possible. I do agree with you. I think Reed's likely the odd man out. And it's not that the Jets don't want him, or wouldn't want to keep him. I think he's worth a lot more than the Jets should probably pay at this point, assuming they want to keep Jermaine, Garrett, Sauce, and Brees. I think realistically, we're probably going to lose one of those three if we don't keep Reed anyway. And I think if you were to keep Reed, you're probably going to have to make a decision of which two are you willing to let go. I think Sauce is very much going to be a lifetime Jet. Garrett, I'm not so confident will be here long term. I think it depends on how we progress the next 2 years and if we have a quarterback beyond that. I could see him being if there was a regime change, being an incredibly valuable trade chip to kind of reset a roster that's going to be, spiraling out of control in terms of dead cap in 2026. I hope that's not the case. And then Brees being a running back, obviously, I don't know if they're going to pay him the big contract. I would like to see it done after this year, so that way you have him for the next 3 seasons and you feel confident with him. But I think we're going to hit a little pressure point. That's a little bit more of why my irritation, I shouldn't say irritation, but why I thought they would go Bowers is hey, let's just push all our chips into the center right now. We have a quarterback for 2 years. We haven't had a quarterback basically my entire life being a Jet fan. We had Pennington for a little bit. We had Testaverde for a little bit. And that's kind of the extent of the quarterbacks that I've seen play. While you have Aaron Rodgers, I would rather forego future happiness for the now. Unless, if there's some way Rodgers can play beyond 2 years, then, maybe you start, thinking a little differently. But I like the idea of going all in right now. And if you have to lose Reed in a year that you may not be spending a crazy ton in free agency, you're probably likely to get a comp pick back for him because he is a top 10 corner in this league.
Yeah, well said. And I do actually have the same concerns about Garrett Wilson where he's not a diva, but you do see him getting somewhat irritated when he doesn't get the ball. And I think he just really wears his heart on his sleeve. And when the team's losing, he takes it very personal. And then Sauce actually went on Twitter yesterday and said, I want to be a Jet for life. And I don't know about you. I love hearing that, but Jet for life kind of haunts me a little bit just from, previous couple years. So I'm I don't know if those are the words that we should be using. NYJTV, Vinny chimes in saying 2 of the best right here. Thank you for saying that, Vinny. Definitely appreciate that. So I think we kind of pretty much went over the entire team. It's early to tell because the season schedule's not even out yet. Do you have a preference on who the Jets should be playing week 1? Do you have a certain team I want to go, right after them week 1? In my opinion, it's New England. I want to hit them while they're weak. And yeah, it's a softball game, but maybe that does kind of just erase the stigma of last year once and for all when it fell off the rails. We get Aaron Rodgers that can absolutely ball out in his first game back where, yeah, maybe the competition isn't as high as it's going to be later on in the season. So it kind of eases him back into it a little bit. And not only that, it's just New England. I mean, I get it. Belichick and Brady, they're not there anymore. It's a totally different regime. But they just the name the Patriots. They just beat down the Jets for so many years when we were down and out, when we were weak. You think of the seeing ghost games, the butt fumble, there's all these historically bad games for the Jets. I want to do it to them week 1. I want to ruin their quarterback. I have nothing
Mhm.
against Drake May besides I have to hate him because he's a Patriot now. That's the only reason. I hate Drake May. Never done anything to me, but
Mhm.
I hate him. So is there like a specific opponent that you want to see the Jets go after week 1, or is it just whoever it is, who it is?
It would make me feel really good if it was the Patriots. Obviously there's, the Bills and Dolphins. I think it's going to be a division game. So Patriots would make a lot of sense. For whatever reason, they never tend to give us Miami like early in the season. We had them a little bit ago with Brees and the Quinn and Williams stiff arm. But the Patriots are one that, like, you know what? We beat you at the end of the season last year. I want to pound you into submission this year. The other part of me is like, you know what? If we get Zach Wilson at home as the starting quarterback, like, just make this kid's life an absolute living hell. There's some degree of like excitement for that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like, the oh no panic Jet fan in me is like, God forbid we're on national TV or something stupid like that, and Zach Wilson finds a way to win,
Oh,
and we
that
just
that would
blow
be
it
the
up.
Jet
Like,
luck.
it could not. I don't want it to happen. I don't know. Patriots would probably be my answer. I would like to see Patriots. We had the Bills the last 2-3 years in a row for the home opener. So Patriots, I think, was the last home opener. Not the last home opener, but the first one for Zach Wilson when he had like the it was 5 interceptions or whatever that game was.
Yeah, like the
Um,
54-13 or whatever it was too.
yeah, I would love to repay the favor and just like hang a 50 burger on them and just
Yep.
absolutely demolish that team. It would make me feel pretty good.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I gotta say, I guilty as that as well. Like I would absolutely love to see that. I want to like just no mercy. You know,
Mhm.
10 drives, 10 touchdowns. That's what I'm saying.
Oh
So
yeah, victory formation? No. Hail Mary.
yeah, yeah,
Do it again. Just lay it on.
yep. And if anybody can do it, it's Aaron Rodgers, the Hail Mary King right there. He's done it, year after year after year. So
Mhm.
it's only fitting that we get to see him in that new beautiful green and white that we're gonna be rocking this year. Kind of get rid of the coffee bean right there. I gotta update that. It's coming in due
Dude,
time.
I've got a new sign coming for
Yep.
behind me, and I have my Garrett Wilson jersey. I saw that it shipped from the Jet Shop, but I got a delivery from the Jet Shop today. It wasn't that. It was my replica helmet. But I'm so excited. The new green uniforms are just so fresh. It's easily the best thing that we've seen in obviously the last 5 years. The jersey that we've had, I didn't like it when we first had it. The arrows on the side or the
Yeah.
wings or whatever those were supposed to be just look goofy. The green was never like super nice. I'd love to see them add a white helmet with the green logo on the side. I think that would look really nice as like the third alternate helmet. Did you get yourself a new legacy jersey yet?
Not yet. And I almost did last year.
Mhm.
And then like I just have the worst luck with jerseys. I really do because like I have a Jamal Adams jersey and then he was traded.
Yep.
I have a couple other ones. I don't even remember
Sam
what
Darnold I
yeah,
had.
yes, I have a Darnold one and then that year he
I
got traded.
I bought the DH gate Zach Wilson because I was like, I'm not spending much money on this quarterback's jersey. Early on, I know every time I buy a jersey, the guy's off the team in 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got to go with the legends. I mean, like the old
Mhm.
timers. That's really like the way to go. Corbett, Mangold. I even have a
Mhm.
Sanchez jersey, but yeah, I just couldn't get myself to buy a Zach Wilson jersey. So luckily, I don't own anything Zach Wilson. I do
Mhm.
have a white knight Mike White jersey. So I
Mhm.
mean, not a jersey, a T-shirt actually, but
Mhm.
I have nothing against him, even though he is with the Miami Dolphins. But I do have the I guess last version of the Aaron Rodgers jerseys, like the one that we had
Mhm.
just talked about with the plane over here.
Mhm.
And of course, that's not the new jerseys that everyone's wearing. So I'm
Mhm.
definitely gonna have to get myself some legacy stuff when it comes out. I don't know if I've never owned a white jersey. I don't know if I want to go with the white or not. Like I do like it
Mhm.
a lot. I've actually only owned green. I don't have any white and I don't have any black. So I might have to switch it up this year. So
Yeah, I don't have
um
any blacks yet. I've mainly gone with green for a lot of my uniforms until the legacy jersey. Legacy jersey, I bought a bunch of white. And that's mainly because like I wasn't sure how it would react with like the light coming off and would it be too bright and like overexposed stuff.
right,
Stupid
right.
filmmaking things. And I
Yep.
would just spill stuff on it.
Yeah, no, that's my big thing too. Like I know for a fact, like, I'm gonna wear it week 1 and then I'm gonna have like a nice Budweiser stain on it or something like that. And I'm gonna get ketchup on it or cheese or something silly like that. And it's just gonna
Mhm.
be a reminder of yet another bad jersey, I guess, because it's gonna be hard to get those stains out. So
Mhm.
before we wrap it up, it's hard. Like, I'm never like really a big fan of putting grades on drafts, especially before we see anything. But in terms of positions of needs that were addressed, what do you want to give this draft class?
So I gave it a B plus, and the reason for that is I really like the top 4 picks a lot. My biggest gripe with it is that we did not utilize those 4th round picks, and we definitely set ourselves up for like depth as opposed to like, could we increase the return on the draft pick? Like if you had gone with a wide receiver, say at number 10, you might have a higher ceiling, but God forbid the offensive line, falls out, then you're in a rough spot. So I think B plus is where I land on it. It's not a knock on any of like the later round guys, but it's just there were some starters that were available, I think,
Right.
in the 4th round. TJ Tampa, Jalen Hicks, particularly in the secondary, is where I probably would have liked to have gone. But I love the trade down, to get Olu Fashanu. I thought that was a really smart decision by Joe Douglas. I like the trade up for Malachi Corley. It didn't really cost you a whole heck of a lot. You got what you might have. You got maybe 85% of what Brock Bowers is in Malachi Corley without spending a top 11 pick on him. Yeah, B plus for me, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And just all the trades. Like, I remember I was working on Saturday, and then like I'm like just trying to check Twitter like as I'm going along, and like there's trades with the Packers and the Lions and the 49ers, and I couldn't even keep up. I'm like, what is going on here? And then it got to the point where like all of Jets Twitter calls Joe Douglas JD. I'm calling him Trade D from now on. Trader Joe, something like that, because like nobody has more trades than Joe Douglas. And like I said, I couldn't even keep up. I'm like, did they have the 4th round? Did they not? Like, I'm confused now.
I think they were saying there was like 30 trades or 20 some odd
crazy.
trades, and the Jets were a part of like 6 or 8 of them on draft day. It's like insane, the number.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles, I think, were the either the first or second most as well. So like the parallels between Joe Douglas and where he came from with how he handled the draft was interesting.
Right. So last one here. I got to ask you.
12-5.
Okay. Yep. That's exactly where I was going. 12-5. Winning the division, or?
Yeah, I think the easiest path for the Jets is going to be through the division. I don't think we sweep everyone, but I think we sweep the Patriots. I think we can sweep the Bills. I think we probably split with the Dolphins, and we find a way to go to 12-5. I don't think we're going to be good enough to get the first round bye, but we'll get a home playoff game for the first time in 15 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
20 years, maybe 20 years. I think it was
2002.
Ugh, 2002. Yuck.
I was like 3 years old.
I was at the game just prior to the home playoff game. We had season tickets. We didn't buy the playoff games for that year because we're like, there's no way. That was actually the loudest game I've ever been at. There was a Jets Packers game 2002, and I remember it was a 4:00 game. I remember walking into the stadium and we're like, oh man, Jets don't have a shot. We need the Patriots to beat the Dolphins. And they start having a comeback. And you're like, oh, wait a second. Then they take it to overtime. Oh man, Jets got a shot. If the Patriots, can win this overtime game. And I remember being in the stands with everyone listening on like the Walkman headphones, and like no one's paying attention to like whatever's going on the field. We might be like halfway through the first quarter or something. And you hear, over the headphones, New England Patriots kick is up and it's good. And like the whole crowd goes bonkers. And like
for the Patriots,
players are looking around like, what is going on? What just happened? And then they come over to the announcement and say, the New England Patriots have just beat the Miami Dolphins. The New York Jets, if they beat the Packers, they will win the AFC East. And then the Jets went on like an onslaught and just smacked around Brett Favre and the Packers. And that was one of the more fun games I think I've ever been at.
And then I believe the following week was the 41-0 against Manning and the Colts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just domination for 2 straight weeks. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I really can't. I'm just so excited for it because it almost like doesn't even like feel real. Like we're the Jets. We don't belong in the playoffs. What?
We had our season stolen from us last year. That's what hurts so bad. It's like you saw what it was going to be. Yep. Aaron Rodgers never gets hurt. And then you lose him 4 snaps into the season. And you're just like, man, this is so Jets. And you just hang your head and you say, next year.
Yep. That's exactly what it was. Like just the aura that was last year, Hard Knocks, and then like all the documentaries that they were putting out, and just like I just never seen all the podcasters and Jets Twitter just so happy. Like there was not a care in the world. And I just remembered that preseason game against the Giants that Rodgers did play, and I was just holding my breath. I don't know about I didn't
Mhm.
I wanted to see it, but I didn't want to see it at the same time. And it's
Mhm.
just, I think that's what it's going to be this year as well. It's just
Mhm.
every time he takes a step back, I'm just like, I don't know if I can watch. And I was at the home opener last year, so
Mhm.
I was sitting there in person, and yeah, it was like the win was nice,
Mhm.
but I think we all just kind of had this eerie feeling like walking out, like I don't know.
Mhm.
A lot of people were saying it was a sprained ankle and stuff. So I'm like, all right, like
Mhm.
I was trying to get myself back into it. And then there was like I remember like just walking out the tunnel, and like a lot of people were like, oh, it's a sprained ankle, he'll be fine, he'll be fine. And then there
Mhm.
was like another part, nope. Like some people knew right away that's Achilles, he's done. And
Yeah. We
I
didn't
don't
see it in the stadium. We didn't see, like, the replay of the Achilles pop, and as soon as I got home, it was like, "Oh, no, that's definitely the Achilles." Like, this is not good. When we saw the first run from Brees where he goes for, like, 15, 20 yards, I was like, "We're winning the Super Bowl. That's
yeah,
we're done. I'm gonna go buy my ticket right now."
yep. Yeah, the
Damn
thing
it.
is, like, it took me 4 hours to get to MetLife. Like, I missed Aaron Rodgers running out and everything. So as I'm like walking into the stadium, my dad texted me, he's hurt. That's all I got. I'm like, what do you mean he's hurt? I'm like, not Aaron. I'm like, who's hurt? And then I look up, they got the TVs everywhere, and you see Zach
Mhm.
Wilson's dumbass running out. I'm like, oh no,
Oh.
like here we go. But then, like I said, I was like, all right, maybe it's not that bad at first. And then
Mhm.
some people just knew like right away, and it just figures that Vinny Testaverde of all people, just a
Mhm.
guy who never comes around. Like I don't
Mhm.
think I've ever seen Vinny Testaverde on my television live. I just don't think I've ever done it. So all of a sudden, let's bring back Vinny Testaverde, who Aaron Rodgers suffers the exact same injury that he suffered the same
Mhm.
week 1, 1999. I'm like, oh my God.
I was
So
at that game too.
were you?
I was. It was terrible.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I want Aaron Rodgers to have like a restraining order against Vinny Testaverde, just as long as
I'm
he's the New
with
York
you.
Jet. So, um, Ryan, thank you for this, man. This was a blast. I love talking Jets with you, chopping it up. You're one of my favorite podcasters, just so knowledgeable, and just what you bring to the table is very unique. So I'm sure everybody knows who you are and everybody is following you. But for those who don't, for whatever reason, where can people watch your stuff and where can people follow you?
Yeah, Jets Talk 24/7 over on YouTube. Do the game streams, do the the post games, pre games, all that good stuff. Little random factoids, things that pop up in my mind, mock drafts, all that good stuff. Well, no mock drafts anymore, but you
Not
know,
for a while.
not for a while. I hope I don't have to look at a mock draft till after the Super Bowl. That would be fantastic.
Yep.
But you know where to find me. YouTube.
Yep, definitely, guys. So, Ryan, once again, thank you for coming on, man. I had an absolute blast. Everybody in the chat, thank you guys so much for chiming in. We got Bobby Midnight, as he's known on Jake Asman. Uh, no, I'm actually not taking callers tonight. I'm actually really tired. I went pretty long last night as well, and Bobby called in last night. So, thank
Mm.
you guys for watching. Thank you guys for all your support. Keep Dan in your prayers as he's recovering from surgery after a freak incident. So just keep him in your prayers, definitely. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Definitely helps us out. Thank you guys for watching. We'll talk Jets soon.